Good afternoon guys, Dark Purple Shadow here, and today I want to talk to you about something very close to my heart. Some people remember childhood through birthdays, through school, through family holidays. For me, some of my earliest memories sound like the menu music to this game. Not a song on the radio, not even a nursery rhyme. The menu music of Gran Turismo 2. And to you that might sound a bit silly, it might sound a bit ridiculous, but if you played this game, you probably understand exactly what I mean. Because Gran Turismo 2 wasn't a game about cars, it was the personification of everything that we love about them. It was discovery, obsession, it was wonder, and 25 years later, here I am making a video about it after replaying it a bit on an emulator. This was a racing game that felt like an RPG. It felt like a JRPG, and I'm a big fan of those as it is. But it had everything. It had the physics, the gameplay, the car lists. But what made it special wasn't all of those. It wasn't any individual aspect of it. It was just the completeness of the game. It captured a snapshot in time, and it took everything you could have possibly wanted in a PlayStation 1 title and then added some more just to make sure you weren't upset. Seriously, listen, every manufacturer that felt like it existed was in this game. Now I know that's not a fact, but if you're like a 7, 6, 5-year-old child like I was at the time, it felt close to the truth. Every dealership had character, had different cars, had different color schemes, had a slightly different feel, and every price car felt like an unlock, an achievement, some loot. And some cars, they felt like mythical monsters, like legendary Pokemon. You know the ones I'm talking about. The Toyota GT1 race car, the Nissan R390 GT1, and the Ford GT90. Monsters that were far from being unlocked. And to me as a kid, they weren't just cars. They were pictures that were etched in my psyche. I didn't know what Le Mans was. I didn't know what homologation meant. But I knew that this stuff looked damn interesting. And I felt it, and that feeling, that awe, that's something that you just can't manufacture. It has to be built into the very fabric of a piece of art, and Gran Turismo 2 was just that. One of the best pieces of art I've ever experienced. Now I'm talking about these mighty beasts with engines that will cost hundreds of thousands of pounds, but the actual true beauty of this game was the fact that it took the most boring vehicles and it made them exciting. There's a bit of a ad hominem used in places like Instagram. If you post your car and it's not a V8, 6 turbos, 1,000,000 horsepower, people will say, bro, why did you make an Instagram page? Your car is just regular traffic. But that's the beauty of it. True people, true car lovers, people who really care about things with 4 wheels, they don't care what a car is. They care about what a car says. There's beauty in every vehicle. And modern racing games just talk about Lamborghinis, Ferraris and exotics, supercars, hypercars. You know what I'm talking about. If you log into Forza or even a modern Gran Turismo, they'll smack you in the face with a Porsche that you'll never ever buy, let alone afford, let alone rent. You probably won't even see this car in a 6-mile radius. But Gran Turismo 2 made you care about that family car that your dad owned in 1994, that random car with a little stripe on the back that was a specific variant of a random alpha that won a race once. That is the superpower. And I'm going to give you a perfect case study. Arguably one of my favorite cars that was included in Gran Turismo 2 and never included again as far as I remember in any other Gran Turismo game, or I believe ever in any other racing game that matters. I know it might have been included in specific touring car games, but the car I'm talking about is the Nissan Primera. This was a taxi car, a minicab car. This was before the days of Uber, about 2 decades before the days of Uber. My dad was a minicab driver and he actually owned a Nissan Primera at one point, along with the standard random cars that taxi drivers drove in the early days of the 2000s and the late days of the 90s. I'm talking cars like Corollas, Avensis, but the Primera was special. The Primera wasn't just any car. The Primera was not just some unknown Nissan. It was a champion. It was an ordinary car, but in this game, you could put in the racing modifications and turn it into its final form. The BTCC World Champion. Now it is a bit upsetting that the only version of this car that exists in this game is the wagon, which turns into the touring car spec version, and in real life it wasn't the wagon, it was actually the saloon. But nonetheless, I'm still happy with it. And if you really want a saloon version, you can get the Infinity equivalent, which I think was an Infinity G80 or something. Nonetheless, it was an incredible thing to see a car that my dad was driving day in, day out, immortalized in pixels. And this was something very, very difficult for many platforms to do back in the day, as getting licenses for cars was difficult. But Gran Turismo 2 did it. And in fact, to this day, Gran Turismo 2 is the most proletariat version of a video game about cars. You don't just worry about the super performance variants of every vehicle. You have some bog standard cars like the Ford car, the base model Ford Focus. You have all of these monstrosities along with the big beasts that have 700 horsepower. And it makes me happy. Whenever I go and play Gran Turismo 2 and I see a Vectra, I smile a little, because that's a car you cannot even see on British roads anymore. It's real nostalgia, true nostalgia. Every turn of my bloody wheel is nostalgia. And honestly, that's something that modern games just don't do anymore. And that's what I'm trying to say. People forget that this was the end of a millennium. Gran Turismo 2 was in fact a time capsule to the end of an age, to the end of true mechanical, wondrous cars. There was no smartphone, no YouTube, and most people didn't have the internet. And for a lot of children like me, the only way for them to extract information from this cold world was by playing games or reading books or looking at encyclopedias. In fact, this was the days when the internet was reserved for the few who were rich enough to own it, or you could use it in your school for 15 minutes at the end of your computer technology class, where there was 3 computers between 35 children. But this was special. The PlayStation 1 allowed us to have a digitized interactive museum of vehicles that you could not only drive, but you could learn about them. It had such detailed information about each car. It had such beautiful understanding of the value and relative importance each car had for its manufacturers. And there were duplicate models. And people complain about this, but for me, the duplicate models were part of the beauty, and that's what I really loved. I loved every variant of a 156. I loved every trim of a Skyline, and that wasn't bloat to me. That was pure richness. And yeah, it was efficient and it was a good use of memory in the game. But you know what's sad? I know for a fact that modern games will never reach this level of grandeur, even though they might have bigger car lists. I don't want every Lamborghini that's ever invented, because I don't even know half of them. I don't even think the richest people in the world can afford half of these one-of-one Lamborghinis. But I do want the car that I might drive one day if I'm a child today. And the sad truth is, this kind of stratification is gone. Essentially, we live in a world where people either have the best car or they're sad with the car they have. And that's not really what the late 90s and the early 2000s was about. It was about loving whatever you have. Whatever vehicle you had, you appreciate it. And that was your workhorse. That was your steed, and you rode it into battle every single day. That didn't make you feel bad. It made you proud. And I think this game, one thing that people forget, Gran Turismo wasn't shaped by car culture. It became the mark of car culture. It standardized what we consider modern terminology. For example, when it comes to tuning, people talk about stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, all of this random stuff. And I know it probably did exist in some form prior, but Gran Turismo 2 sort of codified it. It was like an early revelation that made people realize that this is the way we do things. And even when it comes to car brands, certain car brands pretty much owe their existence to Gran Turismo. I know for a fact that TVR actually had a 6-fold increase in sales, especially in Japan, when Gran Turismo 2 came out, because people were so impressed with the cars that they saw on this game. And that's just one example. I'm sure there's many more. I'm sure there's certain cars and models and actually entire brands that were only in existence because of Gran Turismo. In fact, I didn't hear about Audi S cars till Gran Turismo. Like, I saw the S4 as some mythical beast, and the truth is it was a mythical beast, and I only knew about it because of this game. I'd like to end by talking about by far my favorite feature on this game, and this is a feature that could exist in modern games. Take away everything I've said, you're not going to get full car lists of 10 different trims of a Toyota Corolla or a Prius or Nissan Micra, but you could get what I'm talking about next. And this is a feature that's not been included in any Gran Turismo game since, or I don't believe is included in any game going forwards, Gran Turismo or not. And that's just the standard racing modifications. I love the idea of getting a bog standard car and turning it into something special. Wide body kits, standardized drivetrains, you know, changing the livery, making it look like a beast. Basically putting a normal car on steroids. This made me fall in love. I could get any random vehicle and I could change it to make it superior. And I missed that. I know you can do customizations and you do have liveries, but those liveries have become jokes and tacky things to do now. The way Gran Turismo 2 did it, it was classy, it was impressive, and it was refined. And that's just not something that's being done now. If you log into any Forza lobby or any Gran Turismo lobby, you can see the sort of nonsense I'm talking about. I don't want you to show me your random car sponsored by Family Guy. That doesn't even make sense. It takes away from the reality of the game. Meanwhile, Gran Turismo's racing modifications always had some sort of harking to something greater. And here's the weird thing. This game holds up. I played it recently. I've been playing it. In fact, initially I played it as a joke, and then I played it with such rigor and enjoyment. I thought, let me just put into words how much I appreciate this video game. It shocked me. It completely shocked me at how well this game ran. Obviously, I'm running this game on an RTX 5080. It's probably not even using one core from this graphics card. Nonetheless, this game was designed for the PlayStation 1, and I remember it running pretty well on the PlayStation 1, sans some very large loading times. But the PlayStation 1 had less power than a modern Apple smartwatch as far as I'm aware. So the fact that they managed to get this game with over 600 cars, not including the racing modifications, multiple tracks, have such a large amount of content is absolutely wonderful. And honestly, some modern games just don't feel as good. In fact, you could probably load up a game on your phone that is running 10 times more graphically intense and it will just be a worse game. Now don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying modern games aren't good. Gran Turismo 2 is amazing. The physics are better, the presentation is better, it's more sleek, there's more quality of life. Forza Motorsport even, that game was a complete, Microsoft admitted they weren't supporting it anymore, but that game is still better in many ways. But Gran Turismo 2 just had this je ne sais quoi, this amazingness about it. And I can't put into words what this game has, and maybe it's just my nostalgia speaking, but I genuinely believe most people, if they boot up this game and open-mindedly give it a go, they'd enjoy it. And to close that, I'd like to say this game might not be my favorite game, but that introduction to it for the PAL disc, that cinematic with the cardigans, my favorite game. Man, I just don't want to lose a race when I hear it. I just get pumped. It's still to this day probably one of my favorite songs of all time. And it took me years to realize that the actual intro cinematic uses a remix of the song not found during racing. It's called the Faithless remix. So if you didn't know that, enjoy. But for all the things this game taught me about cars, motorsport, physics even, about learning about just business models, because it teaches you some of the business elements of why car brands were successful and why they weren't. I'm really, really grateful. And to this day, whenever I see a car, I get excited. And part of me feels like it's because I spent my time in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory with a V8. Gran Turismo 2, a magical game that I still feel the magic in 25 years later. It just didn't age, it just feels amazing. It is a pure classic, and it's a shame I feel like it's sort of become forgotten and lives in the shadow of Gran Turismo 4. But for me, this will always be the pinnacle of Gran Turismo, and nothing has come close. And that goes to say a lot, because I didn't even play this game with a memory card. I just played it with a Vim, and I played it primarily in arcade mode, and I just played it like a roguelite every time I logged on. So on that note, thank you very much.